Let me introduce myself. I'm Michelle, also known as Mangala within the yoga community. I've been part of the Yoga Sangha in Gibraltar for quite a number of years now. It's almost 20. And even when I hear myself say that, it sounds like, what? But it is, yes. So chronologically, it's taken me through quite a journey. And like yourselves, something happens. There's a moment in one's life where you stop and think. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this room. Otherwise, yoga, you don't sort of stumble into yoga just by accident, you know, like you catch a virus. It just doesn't happen. There's something that makes you, or calls you, or draws you, or yoga's drawn into your life. And it happens like that. So whatever your journey is, I'm sure it's a magical one. And it's a very brave one too, especially doing the Raj Yoga course. Somebody's grinning at me because they know me a little bit better. We go back a bit of a long way. Some of the faces are familiar from Gibraltar, from the Sangha. In fact, there's somebody in this room that started 1 or 2 sessions prior to me. So they're almost 20 years and 2 weeks ahead of me. And that would be my friend Monica, who I had a drive over here tonight. And yeah, she called me one day. It was at a stage in our lives. I've known Monica many years. She's exactly my younger sister's age. So we used to go to school together. And she's always been in my life. And then, you know, we each had our partners, and we sort of used to go out together or go to the beach together. And then we got married, and then we each had our children. And life sort of changes as it does. And it got to a stage in my life where I had just had my first child, my first son, and also my very closest, dearest friend that had been a part of my life since I was little was dying from AIDS. And at that time, AIDS was not something that people talked about. AIDS was not something that people shared. It was very much taboo. In Gibraltar, I don't know, you're all very international by your faces. In Gibraltar, it's 2 3/4 square miles, fronted closed for many of those years. It was very much, you know, living life with blinkers and very much a Catholic religious background. So a very restricted life. There was no self-expression. Everybody sort of did what the parents or the grandparents told them to do, what the community told them to do, and nobody literally looked outside of the box. So when something like that happened in the community, it was shock. And just to see how people reacted, one of the leaders of the Catholic Church almost turned the back on the family, not just on the person that was dying, but on the family as well. It's almost like, ooh, I don't really want to know. So you see those reactions. And then somebody like Nalini comes along, very much in Nalini's earlier stages as a yoga teacher. I think she was more learning yoga, had had her guru and a very religious background all her life, but was fresh in the Gibraltar community, having come away from Hong Kong, from a very affluent international lifestyle. So she brought new blood into Gibraltar with new ideas and new concepts. And also, now that you know Nalini so well, is fearless. Fearless in Sanskrit is abhaya, is a word that I really, really love, abhaya. And there's a mudra for that, it's this one. Soft shoulder, soft elbow, soft link, abhaya, fearless. And this is something that Nalini is. In her sweetness, you can see the life, the passion in her eyes does not allow any room for fear. So, yes, Nalini was already teaching yoga in Gibraltar. And may I tell you, she was going against the tide. Every single door was locking, and not even closing on her. In fact, they would knock on her door and try and stop her. The whole church, everything. She still knew what she was about. She still knew the magic of yoga, the freedom that yoga brings, the spirituality that goes beyond human personalities, and she transcended every obstacle. Why I'm telling you this is because today we're talking about obstacles along the path and what brings us to the path together in our own individual lives. So she persevered, and Monica was already going into Nalini's yoga classes, and she said, oh, she's going to talk this week about death. and you have your friend that's not curable, he is going to die pretty soon. He was in the very last stages. He says, maybe you should come and listen to the talk. And the first thing that happens is, I've got my businesses, I've got my home, I've got a 1-year-old, I haven't really got the time. Yes, my friend's died, but do I really need to listen about death? What can somebody tell me about death, really? It's going to hit me in the face, I know it, but how? What do I, it sounded very morbid. It does, it's something that we don't particularly say, let's go out for a drink, let's talk about death. You know, it sounds morbid, it sounds depressing. And yet, we're all, as soon as we're born, we're all on the same journey. We all know we're all going to be locked up in coffins or burnt. That is it, folks. All of us, right? It's the final truth. So I thought, well, okay, Monica's going, I'll sit beside her or behind her, and I'll just listen. And I tell you, it was a breath of fresh air. The topic was morbid. When Nelanie opened her mouth, and I knew her from before, from her being a businesswoman, and I used to do fashion shows for her, so I knew a lively, colourful side of Nelanie, but I didn't know the yoga teacher. In fact, I didn't know that she had that in her. I didn't know that we all have this in us. Why? Because I wasn't aware. So through a friend's death, I came to the Nelanie, the yoga, and my inner awareness. And that has been my journey. So 20 years down the line, and the beauty of it is that with most things in life, you get introduced and you've got that beginner's enthusiasm, that beginner's passion, and then everything sort of goes a little bit dry and dull, and let's move on to the next thing. Which restaurant opened last week? I'm not going to that one. Gosh, the one I went to last year was the best thing since sliced bread. Where is it now? Closed. Why? Nobody goes there anymore. And this is our lives, you know. Last year's dress? No, it's in the van, it's going to charity. Don't like it anymore, the colour's wrong. And we are like that. And with yoga, guess what? You can't put a cap on it. You can't put a seal on it. Every stage opens new doors. Every stage opens a new universe. And it just goes on and on. And I see it in myself. I see it in people that come to class. I mainly teach yoga. This is so not what I do. Let me tell you. Part of what we're covering today is the accompaniments to the obstacle is what the body does. It shakes, the voice quivers. Believe you me, I am restraining this at the moment, and I'm gulping. This is not me, but it is Nelanie. And I couldn't say no, but I did say once a year max. So I'm off for the next 11 months. But yeah, I see it in beginners, as soon as they're in through the door and they hear her talk, even if they go through the doors like I did the first time, sort of awkward and what am I doing here, and let's just sit in the background, all of a sudden, if I'm sitting behind them, which I always do, I sit by the window at the back because I always feel hot, I watch everybody's sort of outline, and all of a sudden it's almost like the ears go ding, as if we have invisible antennas, like, hang on, did she just say what I thought she said? Is she talking to me? Gosh, she can read my mind. How did she know that? Gee, that's true. And we all react in the same way. Whatever the topic is that's in this book, and that is through her experience, the talk that she gives, she's walked the walk in every aspect, except, very humbly so, when it comes to self-realization, samadhi. She always says, you know, liberated souls, my guru. She never talks about that from herself. She always says, you know, I am a householder, I am a normal human being. And she always takes herself off that pedestal, which is highly respected as well, you know. Because along the path, especially with yoga when we travel, I don't know if you've gone to some yoga retreats before, but a few of us have gone to Bali together, to India together, to Portugal together. It's fun, I tell you, yoga is fun. And you do see some people with turbans and robes and, you know, respect me, bow at my feet, or you get the stern look. And you do see a lot of that, and you think, they appear self-realized, but we are not as daft as we think we are. We're not as out there and yoga in there as we sort of believe that we are. We sort of block ourselves. And we see other people as holier, other people as more self-evolved. And yet, when you stop and you look, you realize that there's an inner awareness that you stop being, how would I say, gullible. When you're in the yogic path and you start to apply the teachings, you start to see things crystal clear. When you don't is when you use the intellect. When you stop using the intellect and you stop and you listen and you're supposed to follow certain things, something inside of you tells you, oops, this is not sitting quite true here. This is not quite right. And that's where you start to self-evolve. When you start to self-inquire and you start to put the teachings into your own practice. That's when you start moving from the conveyor belt of following a teacher to walking your own walk and your own life and your own experiences. And it's all wonderful. It really is. And it's bringing it to the here, to the now, to the moment. So, I've been instructed to finish. Do you know there is a God? I don't really use the word God because I think it's a very personal thing and everybody has their own concept of what something more than skin deep is, something of the magic of the universe. So I don't use the word God really. But there is a God because when I was told to cover this week and this talk, I was told 2 hours and I went, oh! I can't open my mouth for 2 hours. Surely we can put 20 minutes worth of chant. No, sorry, the chant happens before. Maybe we can do this. No, that happens after. And all of a sudden I get an email saying, oh Mangala, I'm so sorry, but we need to finish half an hour early. We have to practice our initiation graduation program. And I thought, wow, I'm so glad these guys are almost graduating. I'm not too fussed about having to shut up half a minute earlier. That I'm quite proud of. But yeah, congratulations, because to reach graduation or graduation practice, it means that
I still have to have their exam first.
You've covered quite a field.
I'm sure they'd be brilliant, but anyway.
So you've all got the Yoga Sutras of Sri Patanjali? So we are on book 1, Sutra 30, 31 and 32 we're covering today.
Page 50.
Page 50, yes. Any questions before we start on anything leading up to this? Okay, I kind of like Sutra 30 for the mere reason is that what stops us on our path, usually, is our own self-doubt. You know what you know, but you doubt what you know, and do you really know what you know? And at the end of the day, we really know nothing. Do we need to know so much? However, to get to a certain level, which you all will once you graduate, your life will not change. You will still be the same old you. However, or young you. However, once you have diploma of having gone through the syllabus of Raj Yoga, you have had to have done a lot of self-analysis. So you will have answered a lot of your own questions. The awareness was always in you, the knowledge was always in you, but you have to dig deep, purge it out, face it, confront it, and then transcend it. So just by getting to that level, after your diploma, you go back home, and you don't feel like you really need to read the book, you don't feel like you need to intellectualize it so much. You're kind of almost living it. You've ironed out a lot of the doubt, a lot of, if not doubt, is the obstacles, what blocks you. We all have blockages, which manifests in discomforts, illnesses, traumas, or whatever, but they're all mental blockages, and we all have them. Many a time, you know, whoever's professional will put a suit and a tie and fresh hair, and out they go facing the world, and you get this bodysuit, this outer image. And sometimes, the bolder, the harder a person is, the less they've looked inside. There's no need whoever you are, a prince or a pauper, that you need to have that bold hardness in you. If you look at somebody's eyes and really look into their eyes, you don't need to confront, you don't need to prove, you don't need to be high, low. You can just be sattvic, regardless what you have to deal with, what you have to confront, what obstacle you have to transcend. Have you covered the gunas?
Yeah.
Yes, good. So we all know on the sattva, tamas, rajas. Okay, so let's go for page 50. We shall read it first. How do you normally go about the learning?
But we let them read, somebody volunteers to read the sutra.
Okay, so we're going to go by seniority here. Monica, you started 2 weeks prior to Hello.
Disease, dullness, doubt, carelessness, laziness, sensuality, false perception, failure to reach firm ground and slipping from the ground gained. These distractions of the mind stuff are the obstacles.
And a second time, please.
Disease, dullness, doubt, carelessness, laziness, sensuality, false perception, failure to reach firm ground and slipping from the ground gained. These distractions of the mind stuff are the obstacles.
All in one breath, huh? Can you identify with at least one of those? All of those? And the accompaniments that we haven't covered yet, right? However, Gurudev says that if the sutras are threads, from the first sutra in book 1 to the end of book 4, it's all threads, it's all linked together. Definitely Sutra 30 of book 1, it is like that. Dis-ease. Dis-ease. You're breaking the flow of your natural balance. Your natural ease is disturbed. Disease comes in. It can come in at small grade, it can come in overwhelmingly life-threatening. But it's there. It's a manifestation of lack of ease, a disturbance in one's flow of life. Once you've got the first one, the others will definitely add on, latch on. It's almost like nature, gravitational pull. If you're sattvic, you're level, you're even, as I said before, looking into each other's eyes, even, balanced. The moment there's a disturbance, you have that that gravitational pull, that down spiral. The moment you start to go downhill, you kind of have that domino effect. Other things will be there to spoil your day, to bring you down. It's like when you ever get up the wrong side of the bed, how does that day go? It's similar to when you have dis-ease. Now, how to break the flow of disease? Any ideas?
Breathe. Rest.
Correct the thinking.
Meditation.
Go for a nice long walk. Watch a comedy.
Music.
Everything you've mentioned will all help. What do they all have in common? Awareness. Awareness. Say the disease of today, for example. My molar's hurting. For example. My molar's hurting. It's going to hurt. Okay, it's not going to go away. Alright, the dentist is not open till tomorrow. What am I going to do? Am I going to bug you all, cancel the class? My molar's hurting, my molar's hurting. What am I going to do? What am I? Body, mind, senses, intellect, soul. 5 facets. What is my molar?
One of those facets.
One,
A tiny bit of
a tiny bit of one of the facets. A tiny bit. Is it going to kill me? No. Is it going to hurt?
Bug you? Yes.
Yes. So if I pay attention to that molar, what am I doing? I'm blocking out my dharma, my duty, the commitment of today, which was to give my word that I would be here on time. Whew, managed it, border and all. By the way, my tooth doesn't hurt. I'm just using it as an example, but don't feel sorry for me. I have blocked my duty. I have let you all down. You all turn up. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody wants to take on the responsibility. The worst case scenario, somebody would put on a tape and listen to music and chant and just... However, these sutras would not be covered. You're getting to a stage now where you will have the exam. So all of this, I'm still having the toothache, even if I stay at home. Now, come midnight, what's happened? I've gone to sleep. Fatigue sets in. Normal. Whatever you're suffering from, at some point, you will fall asleep. Where is the pain? Where is it? So what is pain? What is that disease? Really stop and think, because we trick ourselves so much. Our intellect tricks us so much. There's so much, not our lifetime, lifetimes, generations of conditioning, where we stop to lose ownership of who we are. We shortchange ourselves. So what is the pain?
Attachment to wellness.
Exactly. Why?
Because we're attached to being well.
To wellness. Attachment to wellness.
Also, it distracts you because you're
Oh, come
focusing.
closer.
I'm okay. I've been relaxing again. But it distracts your attention from what you should be present in, and you start to focus on that pain. And like you say, when you're asleep, your attention is not on that because you're asleep.
Exactly, exactly. The mole is still there, the mole is still rotten, it still needs fixing. However, somewhere along the line, you've let go of that concentration to that focus of what's pulling you down. That gravitational pull has dragged you down, and at some point, nature's good. Nature allows you to detach. You go into that lull, you go into that sleep. You might even have a sweet dream. And you wake up and it's like boom, boom. And immediately it's like, oh, I've got a toothache. However, what can you do? All the things you mentioned before. Going for a walk, meditation, do a bit of hatha. Where do you come in? You come in at a point where you look at the reality. I have a toothache. I can't do anything about it till tomorrow. I'm either going to be a bug or I'm just going to get on with it. What can I do? A Panadol at the most, okay. Do I want those chemicals? Give or take. Okay? You take it or you don't. It's not going to change your life. You just know the pain is there. You confront it. You look at it hard and dry. Stay with it for a moment and then take your mind somewhere higher. Elevate the mind. Elevate the mind. Start to think. Infinite inner space, infinite inner light. When you close your eyes to meditate, that point of concentration, call it a third eye, focus on a flower, focus on a deity, whatever it is that works for you for meditation, is what you should draw on the moment where you feel you're losing control of all those facets that it's you, where you're becoming obsessed with one aspect. I had somebody that came yesterday, again, another child-long friend, and this girl, from when she was young, she was born with, she was born with an aspect of herself that, I laugh because we are so obsessive, an aspect of herself that she didn't like. She was obsessed that this was horrible and she didn't like it. It was a nose. She did not like her nose. She could breathe well. She could smell well. She did not like her nose. She's my age. What's happened in her life? At the age of 30-something, she had her nose operated on, and now she's got a perfect nose. What she hasn't got perfect is the upper back now rounds like a tortoise shell. Her neck comes forward, and it's from a lifetime of wanting to distract onlookers on her nose that she, from being slender and tall, has just become this. And she has chronic pain between her shoulder blades, all because of her dis-ease in the mind, connection with something physical, aesthetic. Okay, it wasn't that she couldn't breathe, it wasn't a polyp. When it was fixed, the attachment, it's almost like when a soldier loses a limb, they still kind of feel it for a while, they're attached to that limb. She is attached to the memory of that nose that she no longer has. That she cannot straighten, she cannot take her shoulders back. She's forever on painkillers, forever a chiropractor, forever coming for massages, and slowly but surely, I might go to yoga, I've been told it'll help me. She might come to yoga and it will help her. If nothing else, not so much for the physical side, but subliminally in the Raj side, you learn to detach from your obsessions, whatever they might be. So, disease. We all know that there can be a break from my bad molar or from the example I gave, which was the beginning of my path to yoga, which was my terminally ill friend. He was terminally ill. He could become obsessed that he was going to die at a premature, because we say it's premature, right? If a leaf falls off a tree today because it's had to, it doesn't complain. It's premature. It's not autumn, but it's fallen off the tree. It's not complaining. We complain. We tend to think that we should all have healthful, wellness, longevity. And we should all live to 101 and our hearts should just stop ticking and we die with a smile on our face. And still our children and grandchildren will cry from us because we're attached to life. So yeah, that attachment to longevity and wellness. When he discovered that he was sick, and none of us knew, his reaction was, from being the sweetest darling of a friend, became nasty. He didn't want people around him. It was his way of safeguarding us from the pain that he had. He was kind of protecting us. So what do you do when somebody's sort of becoming nasty? You sort of like get nasty back a bit, you know, because you don't understand. And we do that, you know. And once we all find out what was happening, a sweetness came to him. Nalini came into his life. Just a couple of months before he passed away. And she taught him how to die beautifully. Really beautifully. He found that pause, he found that gap. He found that awareness that he was more than just his decaying body. He still had all the people that loved him around him. He knew how to connect with him. He knew how to give them all beautiful words. Days before his death, because he knew he was going, and he was giving the final message to each of us. And his memory lives on beautifully. And I have him to thank, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have explored this world, I don't think. That was my knock-on effect, to say, hey, you know, you've just had a child, you've just experienced a new life, and you've just lost a friend prematurely, you've just experienced a death. And I was sandwiched in the middle, and I started to ponder and inquire. So I learned about disease very early on, before I even covered the book. My first sessions with yoga with Nalini was just chats. She would go to the ashram twice a year. She would learn. She had her own book, and she would just read it out herself. Any questions on disease? We're all familiar with it, aren't we? We've all had some form of disease. What would you say is the hardest disease to conquer, or to come to terms with, or to confront, or to overcome?
Somebody else's.
Somebody else's is the hardest. Why?
Especially
Because you're
when-
powerless.
My mom has cancer since I was 14, still alive, living under pressure all the time. I do distant healing, and sometimes I think it helps. But yeah, being out of can't accept.
Death is something that's so hard. And the funny thing is that with terminal illnesses, is that you come to terms with. In your case, it's been lovely that with your long distance healing, with the treatment that she may be having or the care that she's having, she's living. And the fear of the loss obstructs the present moment. You're not joyful at the moment that she's live now, that she may be enjoying a cup of tea or watching television or speaking to you on Skype. That gets overshadowed with the thought that one day she may not be. And
Not
the
so
truth,
much anymore, because I'm doing yoga.
yes, yes. The tools are amazing. The tools are really amazing because it opens your eyes to the reality. And as Master Shivananda always says, adapt, adjust, accommodate. And that we have to do in life for absolutely everything. Even our high highs, when we're celebrating magical moments, we still need to remember that everything is transitory. Nothing in life, luckily, stagnates. What stagnates is what blocks us, which is our own personal attachment to things. We become rigid, we confront, we don't want to accept, so we get stuck. But the moment we apply the teachings and apply adapting to the situation, adjusting to what needs to be done, and accommodating for the change to happen, then you're flowing with life. It's like we're over 60% water. If you look at nature, all of water, from the air that we breathe that has the humidity to the rivers that flow into the ocean, it's one cycle, one cycle. And there's a flow, there's no stagnation. The moment you stagnate water, that's it, there you've got the disease, you see it. The moment you block water for a higher purpose, then you have, when you build a dam and you release it, you have the force. It's there you see the repression. If you hold back and you repress and repress, at some point you explode. So if you look at life like water, that it flows, you see those examples. Any more questions on disease? Or something you want to share? It doesn't have to be a question.
I think also maybe not only the bodily disease, the physical disease, but also like a mental.
I was so hoping somebody
yeah,
would mention
mental,
that.
like the disease of the mind.
And it's becoming such an increasing one in our generation. Definitely the biggest cause of disease, especially in the States, but now so much more in Europe, was, I say was because it's changing, stress. So it was cardiac disease and mental disease. Now cardiac disease is being overshadowed with cures for cancer, breast cancer especially, prostate cancer. What's happening, the people that are now not dying from these illnesses are living longer. We have the repression of one's life, all these blockages that we have that we don't face, that we don't deal with, be it from childhood traumas, being from bad relationships, being from problems at school, problems at home, and you don't deal with, eventually in life it catches up with you. Your central nervous system has not cleared it. So when you start to get older, you start to go a bit gaga, and you start to have Alzheimer's, dementia. Have you not just heard the explosive amount of people with Alzheimer's and dementia? It is now the number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is all the mind. So we need to all do this groundwork solidly, so that everything gets cleansed, everything flows. And even then there's no guarantee. However, I always say, I work very hard on myself. I admit that. I don't beat myself up, but I do. I'm very diligent with my... Look at the state of my book. I am very diligent with my practice. And I have been, I think, because I came into it and it wasn't, oh, I think I'll just try yoga. No, I went into yoga and it wasn't the postures. It was the Raj Yoga that I started with. That I really took it to heart, and I still grow with it, and I still have a beginner's interest, which I think is very important to have. that if something happens in my life that is beyond my control, that it's not because I haven't done whatever is possible to do to lead an easeful, peaceful, useful life, which I'm sure those 3 words keep on coming into your teachings. Easeful, peaceful, useful. I do that. Yes, I stumble. Yes, I hit myself against brick walls over and over, don't we all? But I face them. And you don't see the progress, you don't see. It's like, do you see your face? Do you see your own eyes? In a mirror, it's only a reflection. So you don't really see your progress. And every now and again, something happens in your life, and you think, how did I deal with that way? That's not the me I remember. And you think, I just got stronger. And it does.
Show your muscles.
I don't work out in gyms. I'm outdoors all day, but for example, a cute little story. My eldest son, he's just turned 20 and he's doing voluntary work abroad. He didn't particularly want to go study at uni yet, so he applied for some voluntary organisation, so he was taken to India. He was 18 when he left. He spent his 19th birthday there. And in Gibraltar, quite a sheltered life, you know. Us Mediterranean mums tend to sort of really over-nurture our boys. And he left home for the first time, and he was not in one of these capital cities. He was in one of these little dirty towns that you couldn't communicate with him. And he wasn't used to just having a mattress in an extension to a house outdoors with no doors, rat-ridden. His sealed suitcase still got infested with rats, and all the things I sent him for Christmas, he only saw the wrapping because the rats ate it. And he's sort of grown, developed, experienced life in an unsheltered way, which is great. And when the time was up, which was 7 months later, he came home, and already his father, are you going to uni? What are you doing this summer? Where are you going to work? You can't be from bed to sofa. And he started to, I could see his body language. It was almost like back off, back off, back off. But still living as a teenager under a roof. So immediately he applied to another organisation. Skype interview. 2 weeks later he said, suitcase, Mum, I've got a contract for 9 months. So that was in Sicily, in Palermo. So I was delighted that it was Europe. It was just a quick flight away. And then the father comes. Palermo? That's Mafia City. Look at this on YouTube. He was putting the fear of God into me. But by then I thought, he survived these conditions in India. This is Europe. How hard can it be, you know? It's just a flight back. So he had my blessing. And yeah, he had his father's blessing as well. So midterm, his younger brother was missing him terribly. Nobody had bargained for him to just go and go. So we went to visit him, and he knew the place, and he took time off, and we, 3 days into our visit, hired a car, and off we went to Catania, that I'd been told was very beautiful, and it really, really was. We visited, and then I wanted to see Mount Etna. I wanted to go into the volcano and get some lava and all of that. And just as we're leaving Catania, my husband, that's always trying to find cheap deals, had a tom-tom, I don't know where he got it, some car booty or something, which didn't have the latest roads. So we ended off the main track, and we ended by not a very safe-looking place. So as we're driving, and I'm hot, and my window's half open, and I'm behind my husband. Joel, my eldest, is beside me, and my youngest is at the front. And all of a sudden, we're going through this dingy area, and a motorbike with 2 guys come, and they sort of look into the car, and they swerve, and they go off. And Patrick says, did you see those? I said, yeah, they were really looking in, locked the car door. So he locks the car door. At the same time, another bike comes, swerves, blocks him, all in an instant, blocks him. A guy on another bike lunges in through my window, opens the door, wow. We're all belted, latches onto that handbag, latches onto that handbag. He has one of these padded jackets, a hood, the fur, but I saw a big round dark face. The bike on the front, my husband couldn't drive forward or backwards, the bike at the back, this guy inside the car, my husband with one hand trying to steer out, with the other hand trying to reach, but of course he couldn't reach. And me screaming. I didn't know I had that voice. I didn't. You almost see yourself. I started to scream. One hand went on the bag, under the leg clamped down with the other hand. They say ahimsa, right? There's a time and a place for everything, believe you me. I went for his eyes. I don't know how. I screamed, went for his eyes. I don't know how long it lasted, but my voice didn't crack, and my breath didn't stop, and I just screamed and screamed. And all of a sudden, the car door was open, and he was gone. They were all gone. And my husband was looking through really furious. He says, "What did they take?" I said, "Nothing." "What did they take?" I said, "Nothing, I've got my bag." I said, "Where are they?" He says, "They're gone." He says, how did that happen?" He says, you didn't scream from fear. You screamed like a warrior. That's the word. If I had watched it, I don't know how I did it. I don't. I mean, we were outnumbered, we were strapped in, we were blocked, and he left with my name, and I ended up with DNA. So there's a Scarface somewhere in there. They're all trying to find victims, but this victim didn't take it.
Wow.
But I didn't think I had it in me, but obviously, yes. And I don't know if I did it for the bag or I did it because my children were in the car, but as soon as we finished, normally in any circumstance, that would have wrecked my day. That would have wrecked all our days. And I started to give the kids a lecture. I said, "You see, Joe, you're now becoming well-travelled. You have to be worldly at the same time. Be aware. Watch, you know. There's hunger in these places. So wherever there's hunger, there's going to be more crime." I said, "You've got to be aware." And I said, "Cause a scene. Get that voice. Cause a scene. Even if remotely there's somebody that's watching that can call the police or give a hand." So I could see my husband sort of looking through the mirror saying, is that my wife? So I don't know how we got to that, but anyway, that's disease for you.
Good question, Michelle.
The first-
I am always hot, yes, do I look good? The others are cold, so don't worry. There will be coolness after the Sangha, so. After disease, anything else? Oh, and by the way, I think I should address it since we're talking on disease, and I don't know, I know in Gibraltar, again, being so small, we all know each other, or of each other, and all our lives. Here, I don't know how well you know each other, but with disease, I have to address Nuria. Nuria, Sister Coral, that is another gem of a person that's passed on to another world, who has taught us all so much through her passing. Those of you that knew Coral, as you know Nuria, incredible, incredible. Not once, twice cancer. And she battled beautifully. Many of us think battling is like confronting. No, beautifully. And in the end, she never gave up, ever, because she had a beautiful daughter and she had a beautiful life that she wanted to carry on living. So if she had an option, she'd be with us now. The option was not hers, and she battled till the end courageously, but knew when her time was up to accept. Do you see the beauty of it? It's not that you repress or you confront or you're unrealistic. You keep your options open. You always go for that maximum of applying everything in your life, doing everything. Even if you were told that tomorrow is going to be your last day, you don't give up. You still, because it might not be your last day. Nobody knows. You still. But when you need to go, you go beautifully and you leave beauty all around you. And that is what Coral did. Love you. Dullness. That comes after disease. My toothache. Dullness. Already what's happened. From being fine, from being easeful, you get disease. As soon as you have disease, you start to get dull. You become obsessed with what's wrong with you. What's wrong with you? As soon as you're dull, you're not sattvic, all of a sudden there's tamas. Tamas is heavy. It'll pull on you. As soon as you've got that dullness in your life, you've lost that level eye contact. Those eyes become heavy. They become sad. They become droopy. They become heavy. And it attracts the same. Have you noticed? You get some people that live in dullness. They are what I call self-proclaimed victims. You come across those in your life? Self-proclaimed victims. What do? They sponge off your energy. And what happens? We can all be very giving. We're taught in these sutras. Love, give, serve, right? Again, Swami Shivananda, love, give, serve. When you come across self-proclaimed victims, they have the ability, they're very good at it, they have the strengths with it, of sapping your energy. They sap you. Fair enough if it's going to help somebody else. In these cases of self-proclaimed victims, they sap your energy and they're still coiling down. They're still I, my, me, mine, poor me, always. So, please do not be a self-proclaimed victim, even if you have disease. Leave the dullness out. Start to look within. Start to find everything else that's a facet of you. Body, mind, senses, intellect, soul, sangha, the energies that you have around you, and find a way of lifting yourself up, inspiring you. Always find that inspiration. Be it in the book, be it in the teachings, be it in your heart. Find that inspiration in spirit. What is it telling you? Inspiration. Connect within. Your spirit is bigger than any disease, is bigger than any dullness. Don't fall into that chain reaction. Disease will come. It will. Highs and lows. But recognize them and cut them in the bud. Don't give them more energy than what they need. Deal with whatever you need to deal, but say, okay, I know you're there. That's your place. I still have all this. It's always the glass half full, never half empty. Anything on dullness? It came with a half a century graduation. Anything on dullness?
No.
Doubt. Do we need disease or dullness? We can be so doubtful. What does doubt tell you about yourself? Pardon?
You're questioning your own judgment.
You don't know yourself.
Yeah.
No direction.
Like a
Insecurity.
Yeah.
Insecurity.
It is a disease in itself, as is overly confidence. Do you see why we want that? Why we want the horizon? You don't want to dive too deep, you don't want to fly too high. That equilibrium. Doubt. And it comes. And it knocks on its door and it shows its face.
Right.
And then what happens, you know? Life is good, it gives you opportunities. You doubt too much, it's like being at a crossroad. You've got a journey to do. Don't get a faulty tom-tom.
Actually,
Get blocked. If you're on a journey, keep going, keep going. But if you doubt, it's okay. It's like stalling, it's like blocking, and you're like left, right, centre, backwards. How many times do we regress? They talk about go to a psychotherapy for life regression. We do it to ourselves all the time. You've got somebody that does 1,000 good things in your life. 1,000 good things, selflessly. The moment they aggravate you or do something not quite nice, one thing, what happens? You regress, you hold on to that. When I was a child, so-and-so did this to me. Hello, how old are you now? 55. Where is that child? Where is that school? It's been knocked down. It's luxury apartments now. What are you doing to yourself? You doubting? You're doubting that now you're a 55-year-old human being with all the life ahead of you? That is doubt. That is a disease. That is a regression. Another way of doubting. Oh, you know, life's become so expensive. 20 years from now, I won't be working. How am I going to live my ripe old age? You're doubting. You're doubting. What are you doing? You're slaughtering the moment. You're slaughtering the here, the now. The you, at whatever stage you're at now, today, you're slaughtering it. In regression or in projection. So what do we need to do? How do we dilute this? We can't eradicate this, okay? These 9 obstacles have been here for millennia. Life hasn't changed that much. Human minds will continue doing what it does best, block its own growth, its own evolution. So we've tackled disease and dullness and doubt. What do we do? You can only dilute it. Dilute it by coming to the here and now and finding ways. Because all the things that these books teach us is attachments. It's like a guru, a mantra, a sangha, a teacher, a book. But whatever it is, it's working. So until you're evolved so much that you can just be a Jivan Mukti, a liberated soul on this earth, whilst you're still in planet Earth, you still need something. At least I do. I imagine we're all here because we do need something. Something to uplift us and make us see reality. Anything else on doubt? Please air your views with me because, thank you.
I think most of them are to do with fear. And fear is a huge tool that's been used by the powers that were for centuries to control people. Fear is projected into the mind, and then all these things that we're talking about now come from that. So, well, in my opinion, it's to overcome that is to be fearless. And like your warrior story in Italy, you became fearless.
Either that or I've got an overactive adrenaline gland. But yes, it is something that's a rare thing, which is what I said when I described Nalini before, that abhaya, that fearlessness. What did she do? She took herself out of her confined comfort zone. What is Gibraltar? Confined comfort zone for all of us that have lived or been brought up in Gibraltar. Many of us in Gibraltar, the Gibraltarians, live well in a confined comfort zone. And it's the conditioning, what you have phrased so well in one word, fear.
Mm-hmm.
The fear of breaking the rules that we've been brought up with, you know. Go to church every Sunday, listen to the priest. It's lovely. It's lovely. There's a sense of community, don't get me wrong, for those that go. I need this, me. But if that works for somebody, I'm not going to say it's wrong. It is fine. But it does implement that fear if you go out of belonging to that pack, belonging to that sect, belonging to that community. Anything that breaks the mold shakes your stability, and it'll start to have confrontation. Nalini was fearless there. For me, she is a prime example of the life I want to lead. The choices I'm making in my life. I don't clone anybody, but I do have a very wide open vision of what I want to aspire to in life. So when I watched Gurudev, Swami Satchidananda, Swami Shivananda was a different life. A generation later, it was Swami Satchidananda, who came from a background of a family life with a wife, with children, and then lost his wife, and then followed the spiritual path. I find it's easier for me, for my way of thinking, to follow somebody that's had a life in a worldly way rather than a protected, sheltered life in a temple or in a church as a role model. And then Melanie fits in perfectly. A wife, a mother, a grandmother, problems, losing her husband, leaving a grand home, a grand family in small Gibraltar, breaking the mold, not just for herself, but for everybody that's wanting to. And she never pushes herself onto anybody. That is the beauty behind it. So yes, fear is definitely the root of all doubt. If you're fearless, it's nothing. Do you see a 2-year-old? From having a baby that you cuddle and it's oh so sweet to all of a sudden it's like, put me down, I want to run, I want to break free. Fearless. It knocks itself silly and it's up and it's running and it's climbing and it's jumping. That is fearlessness. There's no doubt there. It just goes for it. Goes for grabs.
It's the one word I've always used when she's 5 now. I have 2 children, they're so different, you know, and I always say to people, if I could choose 2 words, one would be sensitive and the other would be fearless. And they're like 2 different sides of the coin, completely. But exactly like you're saying, she has no fear over anything. She never doubts herself, she never, you know, and I truly believe she'll just keep going. You know, I don't think, it's not within her to doubt herself.
Adrenaline junkie in the making, yeah?
You know, she's just...
I like to call them free spirits. And they're very few.
You know,
They're very few because
Yeah.
we all feel that we have to look a certain way, we have to behave a certain way. We were driving, I came in Monica's car today, and we were driving through the runway, and it was after school time. So there's the driving lane, then there's a bike lane, and then there's pedestrianised lane. And there was this kid about 6, 7, with his satchel, and it was looking at the car, and it was racing the car. Of course, there's traffic jam, so after a little while, we got stuck, so it got bored with us, and it carried on, and then it started to spin, and it started to walk backwards, and I was looking at it looking at him with glee, as if, you know, how carefree, after a day of school, heading home to Spain, carefree. The parents quite a bit behind with another child, 2 years older more or less. That one was a little bit more sort of like over 7 years of age, a little more like, I don't want to be seen doing strange things, you know. The younger one was sort of carefree. And that is what happens through our fear of being different, of being looked at in a peculiar way. We conform to how we are supposed to be. There's a certain order that we have to conform by to be accepted.
And
why
to do all this work to get back to how we
to
were.
get to our It's true, you know. If I think if yoga is taught from a very young age, I didn't have that choice. But if yoga was taught from a very, very young age, properly, it's a life skill. Then there's so much less garbage to have to work out. There's karma, of course.
Live in the moment.
There's karma, you just don't know. But at least, you know, you put in your penny's worth, and at the end of the day, the groundwork is there. Let's go on to carelessness. Carelessness. Can't be bothered. Can't be bothered to do this any old how. Sluggish, tamasic again. It happens not just with disease, it happens in one's life. When things become too habitual, when you start to live in a mold, things become mundane, you start to get a little careless. You need something to shock you, to rock your boat, to snap out of it, and to start to apply care, to start to apply awareness, attention. So are they bad things? They're definitely not things we'd go out shopping for. None of us want these things. But when they're there and we recognise that they're there, is it a bad thing?
Not bad.
Not bad at all. If you look at it with the right lenses, it's not bad at all. It's a wake-up call. That's where yoga comes in. You hear the wake-up call. If you don't hear a wake-up call, you still carry on down spiralling. It's very uncomfortable. You see it sometimes in oneself. where you just sort of like, I don't feel like doing this. I haven't got the energy. Sometimes after you've had an illness, after you've had a flu, for example, and the flu develops into a chest infection and 3 courses of antibiotics later, and you've got a task to do, and it's sort of like, it's an uphill struggle. So this is why the practices of yoga, be it hatha, raj, a combination, we should follow them diligently and be continuous, continuity in it. I find with us teachers in the making, do you know where we fall into the trap when it comes to vacation, summertime? Yoga finishes in July, see you back again mid-September. So, do we fall into our own wells, I tell you? We have to, even during those times, you need the self-discipline to apply your own self-practice. A Sangha is wonderful because we feed off each other's energy. And when one person is having a bad week or a bad day or a bad moment or a bad stage in their life, the energy of the Sangha is there to carry you a little bit. You don't feel so alone, you don't despair. When you come to summertime and everybody's gone and there's nobody to call and you've got extra relatives at home and there's people everywhere and there's traffic jam and you can't practice because, you know, the hall's not there and at home you haven't got the space or the time, then you lose the grounding. You lose the grounding. Which is the next one? No, it isn't the next one. Laziness. Laziness I would put very much with carelessness. Anybody has any view or anything you want to share?
I know that Nellie always says when you're in the kitchen or you're rushing around and you start dropping things, it normally comes down, if you go back to the root cause, it's normally come disease, dullness, doubt, carelessness. It's like dropping something like a pan. You know, it hits your foot and you go, you think, wait a minute, why am I so careless? Stressed? You know, maybe you had a bad day, something's happened. Actually, Nellie wanted me just to tell you all a story about what happened to me last week, so I think this is a good moment. Remember my story of the week? When I had a brilliant week. I mean, looking at it now, it was a brilliant week. It started with, you know, disease. Time of my life where I'm changing hormones. I don't know if they understand.
You're still wrapped up, girl.
I know, well, it's true, I am. Anyway, I was having, you know, one of those kind of weeks where the hormones had kicked in. I wasn't at my best. And it actually started with disease. So, and the whole week spiraled down. Disease, dullness, doubt, carelessness. And it ended up, which Mangala hasn't got to yet, with slipping from ground gained. So Nellie said, you know, Shani's having a bad week. Everything's going wrong. And the thing is, when you're in that stage, everything went wrong in that week. I mean, you all know, because you saw and you heard my story too. I've got this and didn't do that. Oh, well, I tried to do something, it went wrong. And then he was telling me off and the world was sticking off and I said, oh, it's okay, it's okay. It's my job to do this. I'm sorry, forgive me. You know. It's just, so it really is interesting and I really saw it when I saw this sutra. That's really what happened to me that week. I really did lose the ground that I'd gained in the last weeks earlier, just by disease. I just wanted to bring that in. Then you wanted me to tell you all. I'm sure. Thank you. I've done my bit now. Carry on.
And you're back on track.
Well, hopefully. Shivaya.
It's something we see very often, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, females have different ailments and complaints than male, but if you're negative, whether you're a man, a woman, or a child, you're going to be negative. But you see this with young women. 3 days off work. Why? Because they have a period. Let's get real. You know, you can't have that scapegoat. You can't have that excuse every month. And it's like, no, seriously, you know. I run businesses, and I tell you, it just becomes a bit of a strain. And you just look at them, and you think, really, come on, you know. Let me buy you a book. Please do something about it. You know. And again, with menopause, you see that. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Patch yourself up. Okay, well, if you want to go down that road. But it's going to, at some point, you're going to have to let go of the patch. It's like smoking, and then the fake tobacco. At some point you're going to have to kick the nicotine. The same with the hormones. You know, the body is very intelligent. The body, not the mind intelligent, the body itself on a cellular level is very intelligent. There's a time and a place for everything. And the body knows this. You can't fool the body by masking it, by injecting yourself different hormones. Well, you can, but what are you doing? You know? I think we all have to come to terms with what the human body is, the human mind is, and stay as natural and connected to nature as possible. And there are the answers. And with nature comes right living, right thinking, right eating, all of those with nature. Slipping from ground again, Alashanti. These distractions of the mind stuff are the obstacles. So what is it telling you? It's not a dead end. Disease is not a dead end. And everything that happens through disease, it is 9 obstacles. What do you do with an obstacle? What do you do with a brick wall?
Break it down. Or walk around it.
Have a ladder. Raj Yoga, my ladder. The 8 limbs of yoga. The ladder. Climb the ladder. Once you've climbed the ladder, you're at a level, drop the ladder. We've got a long way to hold on to that ladder, but still, it's nice to know, you know, that one day you will find a way that all these things, you confront them, you deal with them, you see the lessons that they bring, and you bring beauty into it, you bring a balance. Any questions on Sutra 30? No? I'm going to share with you a quote by Aristotle. The beauty of the soul shines out when a man bears with composure one heavy mischance after another, not because he does not feel them, but because he is a man of high and heroic temper. What does that tell you? Self-care, self-preservation. Isn't that beautiful by Aristotle?
Do you mind reading it again?
Yes, of course. I don't mind. The beauty of the soul shines out when a man or woman bears with composure one heavy mischance after another. Bears with composure one heavy mishap after another. Not because he does not feel them, but because he is a man of high and heroic temperament. High and heroic. The yogic path. You're not beaten by it, you don't confront it, you don't battle with it. You become friends with whatever, you find the lesson in it. You don't become a victim, you become the victor. Shall we go on to 31? Unless anybody has a question or a doubt. 31. Just when we think we've solved all of life's problems, with the obstacles come accompaniments. The garnish. Accompaniments to the mental distractions include distress, despair, trembling of the body, and disturbed breathing. Accompaniments to the mental distraction include despair, distress, trembling of the body, and disturbed breathing. Are we familiar with these?
Yes. But we're going on to the battlefield of fear. Things that we fear, we get all those things coming up, right? The fear again. When you're going to something that you're really frightened of,
You lose
really
control.
feel all these things. You know, you tremble and you wobble.
The grounding goes.
Yeah.
The grounding goes.
Well, I think it's quite interesting because the fear, or we feel the fear is either from experiences in the past or things in the future that have not happened yet. But like you, at the moment, you didn't feel the fear. So when you're in the present moment, I think all that fear just really goes. So fear is not, it's nothing to do with the now, but always within the mind, what's happened in the past or what's going, maybe happen in the future.
It's like a gremlin or something.
Yeah.
I also like to see
Good
fear
point.
from, normally why I like to think of the word trust, because if you fear it's because you don't trust. So, you know, once you start trusting, once you start believing that everything is exactly as it has to be, there's no place for fear. And it is true that in the present moment,
There is no fear.
you've only got the moment,
Yeah.
and what will be, you know. So it's trust. It's trusting that everything is as it has to be.
There's a lovely quote on Plato, short and sweet as I like them. We can forgive a child who's afraid of the dark. The real tragedy is when an adult is afraid of the light. Isn't that lovely? We can forgive a child who's afraid of the dark. The real tragedy is when an adult is afraid of the light. So, what can we do about these accompaniments? What can we do when you have a traumatic experience? And believe me, traumatic experience can be so normal. It doesn't have to be like a huge sequence of events that happen. It can be like an argument with a spouse or with the person that's taken your parking. You can really blow your top off. When you blow your top off, you get the distress, the shaking of the body, the despair. What can you do?
I think
Deep breaths.
the pranayama can help with the breathing specifically. The hatha yoga, I think after a while you start to notice more what happens in your body when you experience stress, or more than you would if you weren't practicing it. You can immediately feel your jaw starts to clench, if you start to shake. And if you can bring the pranayama in to calm yourself down, and the meditation as well, to keep the mind steady.
Definitely.
But like you said before, the first step is the awareness.
Do you know what I love? How it's very clear to see this. You don't have to have a life-threatening illness. You just have to be in an airport when they cancel flights, and you step back and you watch the turmoil. And at the end of the day, it's just a flight. You will be home or wherever you need to be a day later if need be. If you can't control nature, you can control yourself. You can't control a blizzard, you can't control a snowstorm. If they cancel a flight, no matter what you do at that airport, you can have kittens, you still are not going to have that flight taking off. But you see people, and all it takes is one or two to lose it, and everybody else gets the... It's like the ripples, right? You have a nice serene lake, and all of a sudden, Nirvana throws a pebble, and it creates ripples. And I was seeing my reflection, and now I don't see the reflection. I see those ripples, and you're seeing those ripples, and we're all reacting. So if you throw in your pebble, you end up with a storm, and you cannot change the situation. And Nalini takes the story once of Gurudev in Washington Airport. He had a connecting flight to go to a Sangha for 2 weeks. I think it was to Hong Kong he was going to, and they had him fully booked, and the hall had sold out, and everybody was waiting. And the Swamis that were looking after him, that were two from the ashram, our friends the Swamis, they were causing havoc in their peach tunics. And Gurudev just sat on the floor, hummed, and just aware of everything around him, did not lose his peace. He knew there was nothing he could do in that situation. He knew to lose his peace was just going to add to the turmoil. He stayed cool, calm, collected. That's my guru. He may have missed the talk, but at the end of the day, I think there's a lot to be learned from that. But you have to be put in the spot, you have to be put in that situation. It's very easy to observe it and you think, yeah, I see the logic in that. But I'm sure we'll keep on coming across these brick walls. But You know, even if you reflect afterwards, reflecting, being aware is one way. In life we will make mistakes. It's when we make those mistakes over and over again that we're losing the point. We're losing the point of living. You make a mistake, you learn from that mistake, lesson learned, your life becomes more beautiful. Whatever it is, any stage in your life. You agree or not?
Yes.
So what do we need to do? Like Gurudev does. Simplify life. That's what you do. Simplify life. And there's 5 techniques. Okay, we've got 9 obstacles, 4 accompaniments. There are 5 techniques to simplify life. So, when you have a complex situation, what do? You step back, take a breather, do a couple of stretches, do a couple of internal ohms, detach from the situation, from the complexity, give it a pause, give it a breath, give it a rest. This too shall pass. Gurudev's words. This too shall pass. Life flows. We're here. Transit journey. Gone soon. There won't even be a memory of us. So why are we so complex and stuck in whatever is confronting us? Simplify it. Break it down. Step outside of it. Watch it like you would watch a movie. Feel whatever it is you need to feel. But don't get attached to it. Don't get stuck. So that's the first one. The second one is because we are fickle and what worked for us yesterday, we're changing tomorrow, is always, I know we're taught to meditate, to contemplate, but if we keep a journal, like some of you are making notes, on what it is that's a complex in your life, what it is that's blocking you, pour it out on paper, just for a couple of minutes, let it flow. Already there is that release where you're seeing it in front of you. Because sometimes when you're having a rough ride, when life becomes difficult, and you sit down to meditate, self-pity can come. And just, you think you're being quiet, you think you're being still, and inside there's that inner sadness, there's that entrapment. And if you write about it, if you just let it flow, even if you don't like those words are not you. There's just a release of that attachment with you, which you have to that complexity. 5 years down the line, you will probably laugh at the situation you were at. Or you probably have outgrown that situation. That situation will have very little identity, if any at all, with the you 5 years down the line. So just write a little journal, a release. The third one is be silent, be still, introspect. Whatever blockages comes is from the outside, even with disease. You could have been here last week, fine. Day after Sangha, you go to the doctor, you had a blood test, you weren't feeling too well, you told you've got glandular fever, for example. The moment you're told that, your biochemistry is affected. You're not the same person since before those words were told. Or you go to the doctor, you had a blood test, you're feeling a little run down, doctor says, you're fine, just get out in the open air. Whew, there's that relief. What's happened there? Somebody else outside of you has had complete control to how you're feeling. Do you see it? Words. Somebody in the lab could have made a mistake. They could have had a bad day. They could have switched samples. So, are you you? Or are you what you think you are? Or what others believe you are? What I think yoga has done for me is it's empowered me to take hold of my own life, be responsible for me and for what affects me and what I will not allow to penetrate my psyche. I do have a lot of invisible abayas, and they're not barriers. There's a difference, you see. They say the yogic path is like a razor's edge. You've got to be very, very clear. We can cheat ourselves and be very comfortable on the lessons that we learn and how we adapt them. We can take shortcuts. It's like they say in Gibraltar, we're bilingual. We don't master either language, right? Let me tell you that. And in yoga, you can take those same shortcuts. So be very, very diligent and very clear. And yeah, when you have a brick wall and know it's an obstacle, face it, overcome it, grow from it, and don't allow that obstacle to control your life. But when it's not an obstacle, don't buy it. Don't shortchange your peace for anything. Anything that's coming towards you, be it, for example, when we park the car outside, the first person I see is Nirvana. Nirvana, I love your haircut. Maybe at the shopping mall today, somebody might say, oh, what a shame, I loved your hair as it was, Nirvana. What did you do? Why did you cut it? Do you know what I mean? If you're not strong in yourself, you might let either things affect you. One sort of like, and the other one's like, oh, that wasn't a very nice comment. Oh, maybe I should, oh, I really don't like my, so it's just a very little example, but there are many examples in many walks of life. You know, if you're weak in character, you will be weak in spirit. When you're weak in spirit, everything will feel like you're being targeted. Everybody is pointing the finger at you. Everybody is abusing you. From the person that took your car parking space, to the child that's answered badly at you, to the neighbor that was so rude, to your boss that's been so cruel, to your workmate, and it's all about everybody's attacking me. Are they attacking you? Or are you just so weak that you feel that everything is only hair? I get this all the time. Oh wow, I love the silver. Hey, listen, buy nice and easy, for God's sake, don't let yourself go. What are you doing with a green patch? Come on, you should.
It's like your trend, right?
It is like that. It is like that. If you allow people to affect you, believe you me, they will affect you. And if people affect you, life circumstances will affect you more. Be strong. Do it. Do it. Abaya. Abaya. And you'll see this in many religious cultures. It's not just the abaya from yoga or the Hindu tradition. You see Lord Jesus doing this as well. You see many, many sages and deities with this one, the abaya mudra. And many a time is the abaya and the full contentment of, they say the center of the soul is a centimeter, some say a centimeter, some say 2, below the navel. And you usually see the abaya mudra and a very relaxed palm just in the center. So you're carrying fearlessness, or fearlessness is carrying you. Where were we? The be silent and be still. That was the third one in the 5 techniques. Pardon? No, this is just a sutra that's not in there. It's the solutions. Because I found Sutra 30 was the obstacles, 31 is the accompaniments, and 32 is teaching you a skill on concentration. But there's ways on every... If you haven't got the strength of character, and you've been attacked today, physically, verbally, mentally, you're feeling like you're having a bad day and everybody's on your case, you're going to go sit down, cross-legged, close your eyes, and you're going to torment yourself, believe me. So 5 techniques that you can use before you find that space to sit down and be quiet. It prepares you. So be silent and be still. And then is the obvious one, be in nature. Take a walk to the seaside. It washes your troubles. Take a walk up the mountain. Look down. It'll give you a perspective on reality. See the magnitude that's all around you. You'll see you're just a speck. And that speck is important to you. You value that. So you lose the sense of entrapment. So be in nature. When you're in nature, you behave more naturally. Have you observed that? Trap yourself in an airport. 20-minute delay only. 20-minute delay. You're still going to get home. You're still going to catch a connecting flight. You're still going to stress out. Checking in. Oh, half a kilo over. They want to charge me. I can afford it. I didn't need that extra half a kilo in the case. I didn't need it. That extra pair of shoes, damn it. The Jimmy shoes, I can't take them out and throw them. I didn't want to pay though. I paid enough for this. Do you see what I mean? Take a barefoot walk on the beach. It won't cost you a thing. Take a breather. Whilst you're in nature, you're in sattva. Do you know what I do first thing in the morning to remind me that there's nature? Well, it's not the first thing. Sadly enough, as in most of your lives, the first thing is switching off the alarm clock. That's so out of nature. But I have to do it. I'm in the real world. I like the life I lead. I can't take myself to a cave and forget the life I have. I'm going to carry on doing the same thing. I'm going to switch my alarm clock tomorrow and the day after and the day after that until I can retire. But in the meantime, as soon as I switch my alarm clock off, I don't care if it's winter or if it's summer. I open the curtain, open the window, stick my head, neck and shoulders out and take 3 breaths. If it's stormy, if it's rainy, I still do it. Because I love to feel the elements. Sometimes it's Satvik, it's a full moon, and it's beautiful, and it's still dark, and I'm like a thief in the night, and there's nobody else awake, and I'll stay that little bit longer. Other times, it's really, really windy, and my husband's in the bedroom, so I'll just take 3 breaths and close the windows. But when it's pouring down with rain and there's thunder, I allow my head to get wet, and then I just take a hot shower. And I feel alive. I've contacted nature. It might not make sense, but to me it does. I feel alive. And maybe that's all I can manage in nature that one day. I can't always take a walk to the beach. I can't always go climb up the rock. But when I come out of my building, and I live in a building, I don't have a home in a garden in Gibraltar, not many of us have that luxury. I live in an apartment. It has views to the bay. I don't know, it's Spanish waters, British waters, it's a bay. I look at the bay, I look at the water, the air, the sky, the mountain of Algeciras, and I don't care who it belongs to. At that moment it belongs to me, nobody can take that away from me. And I look at it. Sometimes the boats are rocking and you think, oh, I'm glad I'm on a solid apartment. Other times it looks so beautifully, I wish I were out in the sailing boat that's there in the bay. And I take a glimpse. It doesn't take a second, but it takes me out of that conveyor belt that's become our lives. And you have to do that for yourself. Nobody can do that for you. You have to do that for yourself. You have to want it. You have to want to escape for a moment from your reality, your life as you know it, that owns you, to take that breather and find that liberation, that peace. In that moment of peace, nothing can trouble you. And if something's troubling you, it will be diluted. You give yourself that opportunity. They say a problem shared is a problem halved. Sometimes you don't even need another human being to share it. There's something greater than the human being. There's a universal energy that we are part of. We are not the universe, but there's every element that exists in the universe. We are made up of it. And we break down and we become dust, and we're part of that cycle. But for that moment, just, and I know people say, oh, I haven't got the time, oh, I don't live in nature. I don't live in nature. I just steal those little moments. And it doesn't make me do any less in life, you know. I do find time to do everything, I think. And the last one is nurture the body.
Nurture the body.
Nurture the body. How do you nurture the body? Being in nature, already you're nurturing the body without you know it, without you even having to think about it. As soon as you're being nurtured before you're born. Everybody in this room has been in a mother's womb. We've all been there before we've been born. You're being nurtured. Anything you could possibly need as a human being in the making is in there. As soon as you're born, the first thing you have is a breath of air. And it's the last thing you'll have, a breath of air. Nurture the body. Here we're breathing, we're breathing. We're shallow breathing, but we're breathing. But if you want to break the 9 obstacles, the accompaniments, which is the mind attaching to the 9 obstacles, you need vitality. Write that word down, vitality. And you can't buy it in a drugstore, you cannot buy it in a chemist. No matter if it's natural and really nicely bottled, you can empower yourself. Create your own vitality. If it helps you, makes you feel good that you're doing something by taking something natural, yes. But let that be an added thing. Don't feel that you need to buy vitality. Don't feel that anybody else can give you that vitality. I teach yoga. I give Thai yoga massages. I believe those 2 things will help somebody. But who am I kidding? I can't give you your vitality. You have to create your own vitality. Develop it. Sit up straight. Shoulders back. Relax. Relax hands. Soft fingers. Abhaya Mudra. And take a slow, deep breath. And let it go. Take that breath even bigger. And as you let it go, relax your neck, relax your shoulders, still your mind. Close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel that breath in your abdomen. Feel your rib cage expanding sideways. Feel your collarbone rise. As you exhale, relax your collarbone, relax your rib cage. Feel your belly button come closer to your spine as you breathe out completely. Now allow the in-breath to naturally come deep, to sit deep. Feel that moment. Exhale. Take your mind to your third eye. Visualize light. Inhale. Feel that light expanding through your entire being, physically, mentally. Exhale. Feel lighter in body, mind. Inhale, experience infinite space, not just in your lungs, but in your mind, in the well of all creativity. Exhale. With your next in-breath, know that you're made of the universe, but there's nothing or anyone exactly the same as you. As you exhale, feel grateful for that individuality. Be still. Take your mind to your third eye. In that third eye, see the light. There's no beginning, middle, or end. It's just light. See that light becoming brighter. Where there is light, there is space. Where there is space, you're creating room. By creating, you're decluttering, you're letting go, physically, mentally. The soul never changes, it's always there. It's how to reach your soul, how to connect with it, where the inner light and inner space comes in. Feel alive. Experience your bare skin, the tips of your fingers. Take your awareness to your fingertips. Incredible receptors. There's nothing to touch at the moment, but even the air around it feels tangible. There is an energy in your fingertips. Was that energy not there when you came in the room chatting with each other, looking for your places? It's been there. It is there. And it's just fingertips, receptors. Just wherever you take your awareness, that's where you will feel the most. Take your awareness to your physical and mental heart. With abhaya, with fearlessness, experience an open heart, an open mind. The moment you open up it is not all about you. It is a sense of inclusion. Have you lost anything by opening your heart, opening your mind and including? And yet you've gained everything that was already there, but you've opened up to it. Om Shanti. Let's go on to 32, which is now ways of being able to. Mahatma Gandhi, another saying, the only devils in the world are those running in our own hearts. That is where the battle should be fought. The only devils in the world are those running in our own hearts. That is where the battle should be fought. With what we've covered, if we truly understand and start to implement and live it, is there anything that binds you? When you know that life will bring these things, these obstacles, they are there, they will be there. We might be having them now, we might be having the times of our lives now, but before the year's out, we will have some difficult moments. Before the next decade, we will have some challenges. But are we bound by them?
No.
Isn't it fantastic? Isn't it lovely? Not just to hear it or discuss it, but to know in your heart that if you apply certain practices, you weather the storm. You can't buy that. Look at the people that bought tickets for the Titanic. When it came to the sinking ship, they sank. You can't buy it. You can cultivate it. It's within us. These qualities are within us. Cultivating it. There's a lovely one next week, which are the 4 locks and keys.
Oh, well, we've done it already.
Oh,
Nelly
you
did
have?
it. Nelly
So
did it before she left.
cultivating certain virtues. We're all capable of them. You can say, oh, that person's jealous or they're nasty. They don't have to be. They don't have to be. Knocks along their life. It's made them the way they are. They don't have to be. I definitely believe that everybody is capable of goodness and of greatness. We're all capable of greatness.
Well, I think you're delighting the virtuous. We can delight in Mangala. Perfect example of virtuous, in my opinion.
I have my moments, girl, which I'm not proud of.
Sometimes when I see you actually go, my life goes, wow. Sometimes I see you in the disco, I'm dancing, I just see her on the side of Mangala, it makes me laugh. She's just like an angel, doesn't she?
She can be a devil, but there's a lot
Yeah.
of sweetness.
So, on the last of 31, the last line, if I don't know whether you deface your books or not, I would rather have my book defaced as it is than have it brand new, that I have had it for about 15, 16 years and open it and not find anything. The last line of Sutra 31 reads, keep our body in proper condition by right diet, exercise, proper rest, and if we do not allow it to be lazy or dull. That in itself will cover Sutra 30 and 31. Those obstacles, if you continue with your right diet, if you can, and please do not feel that it's either all or nothing. Do not feel that just because you have 2 beers before you go to bed, or you have a cigarette, or you have a bar of chocolate, or you eat meat, that you can't do this. No, from wherever you are, 1 step in the right direction is all it takes. That is improvement. That is already a certain discipline. Many people think, oh, I can't do yoga. Look at me, I'm 10 stone. Ah, I can't do. No, I have a bad back, I can't do yoga. Oh, I can't sit and meditate, I'm too nervous. You don't have to sit like a guru. You don't have to do all these contortions. You don't have to have a vegan diet. Just a step in the right direction. Otherwise, you won't be true to yourself. Have a goal, have an aspiration, stay inspired, and take one step at a time. It's very important that, because I see many people set booby traps for themselves. They enter the world of yoga, and for a month, they don't talk about anything else. 2 months later, it's like, they've disappeared. No, it was too hard. No, I couldn't do it. No, I just, I lost the ground gained and I can't do it again. No, it's a slippery road. Life is a slippery road. But hey, we have that ladder. So yeah, that last one is a nice sentence, and it is doable. You don't have to spend 3 hours in a gym every day, or an hour and a half of hatha yoga every day. You can stick your head out the window, do one salutation, or just a good old stretch and have a nice hearty breakfast, and you set yourself up for the day. And if you fall, hey, tomorrow stick your head out the window again. Sorry, yes?
But you just said something that triggered something in me, and disease, dullness, doubt and all this may stem from fear, but you just said also when we're not true to ourselves.
They're not aligned.
That can also create dullness, doubt, because you're doing, whether it's a job, a lifestyle, living in the wrong country, partnerships, if you're not true to yourself, it can also create. But of course it's also fear of making the right move.
It's all the identities,
Fear of change,
all the layers and
responsibility of
identities.
And stepping
But
out
deep
of the
down
comfort
it's
zone.
the awareness to be true to ourselves. What is it that we want? What is it that we want?
Easeful, peaceful, useful life. If it's just easeful and you don't get challenges, you don't become your full potential. If Nuria hadn't had the crisis with Coral, her sister, the beauty of the self-giving Nuria would it have flourished? The sacrifice of seeing her gorgeous sister wither away, would it have flourished? Her compassion, anything else that was so vital in her day-to-day life. Career, children, living in Spain, working in Gibraltar, full life. You know, a phone call. Oh, I can't speak to you now, I'm too busy. Or, hey, listen, another time, you know, I'm full on, I haven't got time. When a crisis hits, everything else can wait. The reality of the compassion, the love, the empathy, the bonding, that flourished. And it wasn't one day, it wasn't 2 days, it wasn't a week, it wasn't a month. Everything else could wait. Nalini with Shanki. In his final hours, she couldn't come to Sangha for a very short time. How beautifully did she teach us all on letting go of a loved one. Did she lose herself in it? Did she grieve? Of course. And that is your true nature.
And the curious thing is how everybody connects to it, because remember the energy of the room. Everybody was, I mean, my sister had a diary to jot down visits during 4 months. I don't think I'm going to be able to see 5. Tomorrow I've got 5 people in the hospital room. Do you remember? Because it was just...
She was aware of what she could take as well for her own.
No, and she was aware of what she was getting. She was aware, because people were going there and they were seeing, well, if she can be smiling at me, why don't I smile? And honestly, people would go and they'd say, can I see you next week? What time can I come next week? You can come, if you come at 5, you can bring my mother, and then if you know when you leave, you can take my sister. And
See the consideration.
and there was what you said about leaving. You know, she was ill, but she wasn't in her illness. She was ill, and she was organising everybody else's. You know, oh, you're coming to sing. I need to have a massage at some stage because my back hurts. And it was almost as if I have to remember that my back hurts, so I have to, you know. So it was I mean,
She was not swallowed by the disease.
no way. And the good thing is that because, okay, yeah,
The disease was her journey to the next
the
chapter
disease
of
was
her
the challenge,
evolution.
was the big lesson.
Uh-huh.
But the good thing was that the immense ripples during months and months on loads of people. It was like miraculous.
Sometimes people get so much strength in a moment that they are really ill, and it's like they give the strength to the people who will be behind. I also have a friend who has AIDS, and he has AIDS already for 20 years. And he didn't take the medication which was developed in that time. He said, I refused to take that, and luckily he didn't take it. So he's still with us. But he has been my example in how even though he was so ill, how much strength he had inside. And we have been one time together at the same time in the hospital. And he was there to get parts removed in his body, which had to do because of his illness. And I was there for a biopsy. And when I came out of my narcos, he was standing on my bed with a big smile, and I was like, wow, you know. And it really taught me a real big lesson. That. I mean, he still has the illness, but he has so much strength in him. So I think with a lot of people who get really terrible ill, that they create an inner force inside of them, which will prepare them to go to the next
Maybe because
level.
they're living more in the present moment.
Yeah.
So the strength that comes from
It's
living in
incredible.
the present moment.
The busy,
Yeah.
need to do, need to achieve, need to aspire to.
Which
That
blocks the
is
energy out.
it really true? Is it all so necessary? It's great to have a goal, but do not lose yourself.
Yeah.
Develop yourself with that goal. Monica invited me to her house on last week to watch a movie called The Way with Michael Sheen. Was it?
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen. Have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. It really puts it in a nutshell. You know, he had a lovely life, ophthalmologist, weekends playing golf, you know, very good at what he did, knew his patients inside out, could read their body language. Lovely, great life. Anybody would probably want to aspire to life like that. And then on the other hand, you had the 30-something-year-old son, didn't want any of those responsibilities. That was not his makeup, that was not his aspiration. Life, living, nature was his aspirations. He didn't judge his father. The father judged the son. And you could see that. We could all easily fall into that trap of not accepting what our children choose to do or what path they want to do. And in the end, through losing his son and the Camino de Santiago that he was doing, that he decided to leave some ashes in every stop. By the time he'd finished the journey 2 or 3 months later, the people that he interacted with, the life that he saw, the passion, the nature, you see later on he doesn't return to his old life. He carries on visiting and learning the world. So, bondage or liberation, that is the whole science of yoga, is bondage to a life that you feel that you're a victim, that it's hard, that it's difficult, and you come to the end of your days thinking, you know, it's such a difficult life and poor me, or you become a victor, you become liberated. You're still going to die, but you die feeling liberated, that you've learned lessons in life and you can leave lessons behind. We have the choice. That is the beauty, that we do have the choice.
It's interesting that you said earlier, yeah, but I live in the real world, so I have to, organise my day and everything. But actually, we're living in the unreal world. It's not real.
Tell us
It's
more.
all fiction. It's been created for us. All these education, programming on the television. It's not called programming for nothing. It's all put there to mould the mind into thinking a certain way. And they're masters of illusion with fear, wars, disease. It's all there, put out in kind of a cage for the mind. So it's unreal.
And
But
we're
the
all
real-
in it together. We're all, the
Sure.
human mind, if you stop and look at what we've achieved, it's insane. It's insane. But we're all in it. I still choose to be in this life as we know it. God knows why, but I'm staying in this world. But I do escape. I do escape. Time up. I'm escaping
Yes.
on Friday. On Friday, guys, I don't know what's going to happen as far as airports and flights, but I'm taking myself back to a jungle retreat in a lake in Thailand, where I'm going for my advanced Thai yoga massage course. That's for 2 weeks.
So that is the real
That
world.
is the
That's
real.
life,
It's
That's
the
what-
real
that's what-
world. At home, they say, that's not reality. That's not reality. And I tell you, when I was there this time last year, I went for the initial course, and I remember seeing there was a group of 14 of us students and 3 teachers, and detached from the whole world. We were in little huts floating on the lake. The huts were tied to trees on the edge of the jungle, and no electricity, no PowerPoint, no telephone lines, nothing. That is the first time in my life, as I know it, that I've been totally detached. It took me a day and a half of panic. The sounds, the creatures, my children, I wonder if they're doing this. I wonder if the control. I wanted the best of both worlds, and I was missing the moment. Now looking back, I was there for 2 weeks. First day and a half, I lost out in it because of myself. And then I sort of shed those layers, and I remember halfway through, and I saw the younger ones, the ones that didn't have families and were just doing it as part of their curriculum, and I thought, if I were them, I would do like this with my passport and see it float to the bottom of the lake, and I'd say bye-bye London, where I have to go and work in the gym, or bye-bye wherever they came from. They came from different parts of the world. But of course, we all evolve at different times, and it's pointless. I'm not going to live in regret, but I'm taking myself there again. And it has been, for me, it's like, I know with yoga, they always say, when something, consider all the options, and when you know your temperament, you know your makeup, you know more or less your character. When you find something that works for you, then dig deep. Don't leave any stone unturned. Really, really, really drill right to the bottom of it until it becomes part of you, until it's natural to you. If you don't do that and you're still looking for something, there's still a void inside of you, and you try this today for a little while, you romance with it, and it's too hard work, or it's not me. Something else, you've missed that time in your life. It's doing nothing for you. You're on to the next best thing, then the next best thing. If you find something, drill deep. And now this is a new aspect of my life. And it's not that I'm changing. You see the difference? I have solidly gone through this over and over, applied teachings through my life. And every time I look at the book, I see it from a different point of view, a different level. Some challenges are mastered, others I'm masking and I'm still to discover, and it'll be with me for life. But I found that there's other things I can add onto it. Like with Hatha Yoga, I was working in a cancer rehabilitation center, and many people were in armchairs, and they were in the third stage of their life, and maybe they had not done much physical fitness before, or hadn't had an ideal diet, so they were quite limited in what their bodies could do. So doing yoga with them, I had to really sort of forget everything I'd been taught, and maybe just go to lifting an arm or rotating a wrist, Forget standing on one leg doing a tree pose or anything like that. But you still, in their chairs, get them the hips settled and lift their arms so they're doing a seated tree pose. So you adapt it. And now I found with the Thai yoga massage that if they can't, I can do for them. I'm more hands-on, and I feel confident that I've been trained to be able to work at all sorts of different levels, from the person that can't move, or the person that has ailments, or the very, very beaten up sports person that's so muscle bound that they really can't stretch at all. So at any different level, it helps, and I'm just excited to explore a little more. So I'm not just sort of sticking to one thing, because I find that even though I don't get bored with this, but there's other things that I can add that are related. So this is what I'm enjoying now.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mara, there's only 8.
Ooh, girls, boys, we have lots of staging to do.
Rude, you know?
Do you know what? This is going to be great because you've all been watching one person. Now I'm going to sit and watch you all. So yes, we've the concentration is on a single object. We've all covered meditation.
Yeah.
This is what meditation is. But before you can meditate, you have to let go of whatever is trapping you. Give it some space, give it that gap, and focus. Focus, stillness, silence, and detach. And in that gap is where the womb of all creativity lies.
Thank you.
Om Shanti.
Thank you so much.